How is Akagera managed? Already, as I said, PPP, Public-Private Partnership, AP, RDB, government, NGO. Together, they have formed a company called Akagera Management Company, AMC. Okay, AMC is the body that is responsible for the day-to-day management of Akagera. What do the two partners bring? African Parks brings majority of funding and the technical expertise. They're a conservation NGO based throughout Africa, not just from their headquarters is in South Africa. Surprisingly, not one project is in South Africa, but throughout Africa, DRC, Chad, Malawi, Zambia, etc. Ownership, when we first came and African Parks signed with the government, there was a lot of animosity, unfortunately, because people thought actually Akagera had been sold. It hasn't. Ownership is still under Rwandan government. We're purely here to manage, reinstate Akagera to what it used to be like and boost the tourism. Policy again is government. We abide by all the laws, the Wildlife Act and laws and further on. The two together, we have a board here in Rwanda made up of 4 members appointed by the government and 3 appointed by African Parks. I am answerable to the local board here in Rwanda. And then we have what we call the execution management team, myself and my team of managers and even staff. The agreement, the PPP, was signed in February 2010. Current staff component is actually gone up. It's just over 200 full-time staff. And the investment so far, as of end of 2014, was over $12 million. On average, we have a budget of approximately $2 million per annum, give or take a little bit. And as you go into anything, be it starting a new company, you have a lot of bigger capex, what we call capital expenditure costs. Infrastructure, this office you're in today was never here. Vehicles, training, etc. So, pardon?
The roads?
Roads.
Remarkably good, I must say.
Huge roads. Well, have you been in before? No.
Well, before when you were not here.
Okay.
The roads were horrific.
Okay, so you'll try, they'll be a little bit better. The further afield you go, sort of, we haven't been there yet, but we're getting there. RDB delegate responsibility to AMC, so RDB does not manage Akagera National Park. Akagera Management Company does. It's a 20-year agreement with another 20 years option to renew. African Parks appoint the CEO, who is actually myself, and the financial controller, and then AMC is managed by the board here in Rwanda. It's an NGO and RDB getting together. It requires money. You saw approximately $2 million per year. Where does the money come from? It's nice, we have some people from Holland here. African Parks is originally had a Dutch founder, Paul Venter van Vlissingen, PVV. And in 2006, unfortunately, he passed away. But African Parks started in 2002. I was actually at one of the first projects in Majeti in Malawi. My home is Malawi. But when he died in 2006, he left a big tranche of funding in a trust. Obviously, as a portfolio under African Parks grows, that trust is not substantial enough to keep all funding. So African Parks, park managers, we all try and source additional funding. So majority of the funds are sourced by African Parks. Revenue retained. This is managed by AMC, Akagera Management Company. Other parks, the Gorillas or Nyungwe, the income generated through the reception or the activities goes to account 1 in RDB, whereas here everything that's paid at that reception, be it Ruzizi Tinta Lodge, which is ours, boating activities, night drives, etc., we have our own accounts and we pump it back into the park. It doesn't go out. Okay, so that's one of the key mandates African Parks should always have, is revenue retention. objective is to ensure the park becomes financially sustainable. Okay, that should be the objective of any conservation zone. Some are realistic, some are totally unrealistic.
May I ask something here?
Yes.
When you say you retain the revenue, RDB has revenue share programs in place for volcanoes, for instance. Do you have a similar scheme in place, or do you just retain it and use it as you see fit?
We retain, but we also, because every park gives 5%.
Yep.
Volcanoes gives 5%, we give 5%.
You too?
Your way.
Okay.
We do that, and then we give a further 5% to what they call the SGF, because there's revenue sharing, RS revenue sharing fund. It goes to a pool and then gets divided again. And then we also do SGF, which is Special Guarantee Fund, which is for the people who, or for, let's say, for human-wildlife conflict.
Yep.
If somebody's been injured by a buffalo outside, it's basically compensation. It's a scrutinized compensation. You know, Botswana, a lot of countries have tried it, and it has been totally taken advantage of and fallen at the wayside. Here, it's 3 years into the growth, and it seems to be working. And also, unfortunately, Akagera was one of the biggest human-wildlife conflict zones.
Yep.
Because it used to be 3 times bigger. It was downscaled to a third of the size. Animals didn't know, people moved in. There's a lot of water, agriculture, cattle. When we get into the lions, that's how the lions were wiped out. But also there's been now, as of 2 years ago, an electric fence erected on the western boundary. So we still contribute to that fund here. RDB are the only government partner under the African Parks portfolio to actually contribute financially. Out of that 2 million, RDB contribute $250,000 every year to our budget. Why I say that? It's a milestone for African parks. As I say, governments don't often contribute financially. In Malawi, fair enough, the government didn't contribute financially, but they contributed by allocating 3,500 animals from other national parks to restock, so it can be in different ways. Okay. Major funders for us specifically here at Akagera are the Walton Family Foundation. We don't have anybody from the States here, but that is Walmart, the equivalent of Walmart. It's a foundation under Walmart. Stichting Doen, we know foundation, it's postcode lottery in Holland, and then Stichting African Parks, and then, as we say already, RDB. Those are not limited to. There is some other philanthropy from the States. Very often philanthropists don't want to be mentioned, unfortunately. Who are African Parks? African Parks are a not-for-profit organisation. They take on the long-term management of protected areas, so they're a conservation NGO. This has actually grown. This is a wrong statistic. Okay, it's 11 parks in eight countries now. As of 2 weeks ago, if anyone has been to Malawi, Liwonde National Park and Kota Kota Game Reserve have come under African Parks umbrella now. Liwonde is the iconic park for Malawi, but had been struggling for a lot of poaching and tourism going down. It covers 5.9 million, it's more than that, it's almost 8 million hectares now. And the target is by 2020 to have 20 parks of 10 million hectares with an ecologically diverse portfolio. So, for example, in Chad, you have this sub-Saharan ecosystem, Congo-Brazza or Zala, you have 1.3 million hectares of lowland rainforest where the lowland gorillas are. Then we have this savanna park, and not all Miombo or savanna ecosystems. The AP business model, all the stakeholders, financial partners, African parks, community government, the local board as we saw. It's a bit of a diagram in a nutshell to show how we manage and the different partners in the institution, let's say stakeholders, different stakeholders, and then the different departments we have within our park management model. Majority, these are some of the parks: Garamba in DRC, Liwa Plains in Zambia, Bangwelu Wetlands in Zambia. Liwa is the second biggest migration of wildebeest. Bangwelu is the iconic where the water meets the sky, where David Livingstone died, but just floodplains. beautiful area, 75,000 endemic black lechwe. Zakuma in Chad. You might think of some of these places as a tour. Why are people there? We're not there for tourism, we're there for conservation. One of the iconic things, for example, is Zakuma in Chad, where in 2002 there was a census of 4,200 elephants. And when African Parks joined in 2010, there was only 500 left. Since then, African Parks managed to not lose any elephant, with the exception, unfortunately, of 3 weeks ago where 2 females were shot. So managing to stabilize that population, but it's a high conflict zone. Dolapo Aina, 1.3 million hectares, that's the size of Rwanda. Okay, there's forest elephant and the lowland gorilla. Chinko, again, most high-risk zone in Africa, and probably one of them throughout the world. Chinko is in Central African Republic. It's 1.7 million hectares again, and we took over that in 2014. Okay, potential new projects. Those have actually come to fruition. Liwonde and Kota Kota. There's Enedi in Chad, and not a wildlife zone again, but historic culture, rock art, some of the most phenomenal landscapes you'll ever see. You actually think it's just a fake picture, but it's absolutely amazing. And then Gambela in Ethiopia. Gambela again is is a floodplain area, but again absolutely fantastic. Elephant, shoebill. Unfortunately, it straddles onto the Boma Jongilai landscape, which is Sudan, and that's very high conflict zone as well.
When you add in you might want to add your talks in Kenya.
Yes,
with discussions with Isiolo.
Isiolo County with Buffalo Springs and
Shaba. Yeah.
Exactly. We'll only add them once we get very, very close, because, like from the 2 in Malawi, we'd add but they were actually the first parks 15 years ago. It's taken a long time. And all it takes is a change in government, and then things can fall apart.
You have the same challenges what you had here.
Yeah.
That people are alleging the land is being sold.
Yes.
So,
Exactly. It takes time, and like last year, I don't know if you heard in Kenya, there was a lot of uproar of us getting lions, and Kenya were not happy, the public were not happy.
They foul-mouthed you thoroughly and spoiled that deal.
It was spoiled, I won't deny it.
Deliberately, and I know those individuals were behind it.
Yeah, but we have to progress, but we do 112. The park was inhabited by overgrazing by cattle, basically over 60,000 cattle in the bigger zone, human-wildlife conflicts, and then extents of poaching. Potential, still huge potential though. When we came, it's a unique wetland down there at the lakes. Biodiversity is huge. We have a bigger bird population than Gabon. We have the mammals, the potential for more mammals, 480 bird species, wetlands, papyrus, riverine forest, savanna, dry forest, rolling hills of grasslands. So within that pocket we have huge diversity, and then viable populations of game. What I say by that is, at least there were still some animals left. When I was in Malawi, there was nothing but a couple of hippo, and we had to move at huge expense and time over 3,500 animals. That was from warthog to impala to elephant, buffalo, eland, lion, leopard, etc. So at least there's viable populations here. Tourism potential. Obviously there is product of gorillas. Rwanda is getting a better name with regard to security, safety, and transport logistics getting here. So we could straddle onto the gorilla market, and there was huge potential, and it's been growing. Akagera and Reef, I've already said, 112,000 hectares, created in 1934. It's one of Africa's oldest parks. It's over 80 years old as of last year. Virunga is the oldest, and then Kruger and a few others, but then Akagera actually falls in the top tier. Key species: elephant, buffalo, giraffe, zebra. Now we have the lion. We've reintroduced lion. And then some of the other rarities, really rarities, shoebill, sitatunga, and roan antelope. Roan antelope, West Africa, it's not seen as a rarity, but within East Africa, I'm close to saying that we have probably one of the largest populations of roan antelope. It's mainly savanna park, 408 bird species. Lion and black rhino were extinct in Akagera, but now the lions, as of 2 months ago, have been reintroduced to Akagera, and we have the vision of bringing back the black rhino, the East African black rhino. Altitude, in Rwanda we have fantastic climate. We're at 1,500 meters here. Highest point in the park is 1.8 and the lake shore is 1.3. Temperature, it never gets too hot, never gets too cold, and the transition between day and night is really, really soft. 2 rainy seasons, 2 dry seasons. Some of the vistas, you'll see this is the highest point at 1.8. This is Mutumba Hills, looking down onto the lakes on the eastern side. This is Kilala Plain in the north, and Nyampiki Peninsula. And these are some of the scenes that daily tourists could get by coming here. Some a bit behind the scenes, these are our departments we split into, and then I'll lead with infrastructure. Huge, I'm not going to go exactly through everything, but huge capex costs, capital expenditure costs, offices, management houses, staff houses, vehicles, tractors, motorbikes, roads, the new reception, Ruzizi tented lodge, in collaboration with the government, the 120-kilometer electric fence, predator proofing the fence. All of that has been invested in, and that was pretty much in the first 3 years. We're starting to taper off a little bit. And here's some of the what was adopted in February 2010. This is the office we're sitting in right now. There was no power, no water, not really a functioning office, and this was actually the house we moved into straight away. But everything has changed since then. New management houses, new workshop, new law enforcement office, senior staff houses, tractors, grader, motorbikes, etc. Training. When you adopt a park, you need to come with a very open vision. And what we saw, unfortunately, was a high extent of poaching. And our strategy straight away was to challenge that. There will be no product, no conservation without the protection of the environment and the animals. So basically a review of all our 42 rangers at the time, retraining them. We're actually starting another training today down at the lakes for paramilitary training, equipping our rangers, having an operations room, getting new radio networks so they can communicate, providing motorbikes so they can move within the park. A third of the park is water, implementing a marine team, all of that. And as of February this year, we have what we call a K9 unit, 8 Belgian Malinois dogs for assisting in anti-poaching. This we have to keep on top of, especially when we want to bring back the black rhino, and to ensure the integrity of Akagera, we need to enforce the law, unfortunately. So that is continual, and we'll keep doing that. Here's some of the trainings. You know, these are the Belgian Malinois. This is the situation we adopted in 2010. Weekly we were finding that. Snares, animals being killed. This is not subsistence, this is commercial. And this is unfortunately sad, but the biggest target was actually hippo, not the smaller animals. Hippo, because they have a huge carcass, the reward was far higher for the same amount of effort. Law enforcement, what happened? Just by, you can see the lines as when we came, it was like this. A lot of people said there's no poaching, and that's purely because the efficiency of the staff was not there. As our team became more and more efficient, they got equipment, they had the means to do the work. Unfortunately, the arrest convictions cases increased. I've seen it all over places I've been. It does that when you get an efficient team in. It goes up, 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 and people sometimes who don't understand it say you're actually not doing a very good job. There's more cases. where you actually have to turn it around and say, no, other staff are far more efficient. It's going to climax, and when it gets there, it will slowly start to go down and become reduced. And that is typically what has happened here. You know, in 2013, we had a transition of staff. We kept 16 rangers out of the 42 and had another, the rest were all new, trained and equipped and totally motivated. It apexed 2013, and now it's going down, and we still have a lot to do, but it's getting a lot better, and the proof is animal numbers are increasing and cases are going down. An example of law enforcement and training, equipping, monitoring your staff. Each team, these are different posts throughout the park, different colours. They are on GPS. We monitor that's a monthly patrol. For example, May 2015, we want to get close on 100% coverage of the park where possible. And this was key to illegal activities, but also one of the key killers within conservation in national parks is snares. It's not a firearm, because that makes noise. It's snares, what we call silent killers, non-selective killers. It could kill an impala, it could kill a buffalo, it can very often maim an elephant by getting on the leg or removing half of its trunk, etc. And that on the right is actually patrol tracks. So this is how we monitor teams, this is how we appraise teams, this is how we show them that we care, but we also are interested in how we ensure the safety of the park. Now then, law enforcement onto tourism. Tourism is key, but couldn't work without the products, so that was why law enforcement came first. Ruzizi Tented Lodge was built, that is built by ourselves, designed and built by ourselves. We'll go there later. I hope you all would like a coffee there later on, in an hour or so. And then the new reception facilities where you arrived, that used to be a tin structure, not very welcoming after 2 hours drive at least from Akagera. The entrance gate, the park is closed. At 6 o'clock at night it's closed till 6 o'clock in the morning. Unfortunately there was a lot of illegal movement before because there was no fencing, no gate. Roads and signage, the guidebooks, actually I don't know if you all have, but I'll give you one of these later on. There's a business card as well there. Maybe we'll do that in a second. You can take some of it from the back. I will ask if you guys can pass that over. This is produced by Sarah, the tourism marketing manager. Its roadmaps, gives a bit of information, guidebook on the products, the park, what we're doing, the history, basic bird species checklist, mammals, etc. So that comes with the road. Investment in the roads, investment in a grader. There was something like 120 kilometers of road network, not very good. Now we exceed over 350. Marketing, we do in-house marketing. Sarah put pretty much with her team. It's on in-flight magazines, letting people know of the progress within Rwanda through the new times, such how we're progressing. Government is a key stakeholder, so we also want government to be aware of what's going on, but then we also try and get media exposure through the last year and a half, especially with being CNN, Al Jazeera, BBC, other news articles, wildlife publications, etc. The Lions did see a huge boost in social media and publications. Already you've seen the reception, the road signage. We brought the boats in. That's one of the tourism products. That's Ruzizi Tented Lodge at the deck and the fireplace. Visitor statistics, as of, it's actually under 15,000 paying visitors when we came in 2010. It was approximately 12,000 paying visitors, but as of the end of last year, we exceeded 28,000 people. And hopefully this year we're staying on that target. Revenue also, as we say, revenue is retained. No, that's okay. Revenue is retained. And one of the visions, back a few pages, self-sustainability. We were netting 200,000, less than 10% of our budget at that time. And then as of the end of last year, we went over 1 million. So it doesn't take a mathematician. The shortfall at the end of last year was $1 million. RDB gave 250,000. The Walter Family Foundation gave $500,000. African Parks funded the other deficit. So we hope we are halfway there, and we hope our operations cost will reduce. It's not cheap to look after and progress conservation. One of the fantastic statistics, I think, for Akagera, having had exposure to Malawi and Zambia, is this statistic here. Very seldom do you ever see a high percentage of nationals being patronage to the national park. And I will challenge Nyungwe and the volcanoes. I don't think they can exceed this. And that's throughout Africa as a continent, 53%, and we want to keep it that way. We want to grow it, if not grow the percentage, but the percentage of the total we want to keep stable. And that is done by keeping the price cheap, offering the opportunity, improving infrastructure, and doing marketing in-house and radio broadcasts, etc. The other percentage is Rwandan nationals, 34%. 34% are international, and 13% are expatriates within Rwanda. That has done a flip. At the beginning, it was the opposite. It was higher expatriates and international, but it's great international kind of tour operators are identifying Akagera and Ruzizi and things like that, so they're spending actually coming here after the group. It's not just going to the rest of East Africa or anywhere else.
Any figures for East African arrivals? Because that's being promoted too, of course.
Yeah, we do have it. It's not here.
Okay.
Sarah does have those statistics, but because we put them in the same pricing category as Rwanda nationals. We keep the price cheap for East African as well. But we can get that. If you really would like that, we can get that for you. Yeah, definitely. Okay. Very often people say we don't work with community. There's a huge amount of work. We have a team for community. I'm not going to go through all the small print, but basically, as you said, revenue sharing, over $500,000 in the last 5 years has gone to revenue sharing. And that's only for that 5%. But we also have our own department doing different things where we have, right now the team are going out doing TV screenings every night, environmental education, putting up a big screen at night with a generator, beaming across. It's a way of sensitization, it's a way of getting people in and understanding, a way of sharing information, sharing problems, etc. We have an annual football cup between the 3 districts that straddle the park. And then we have community liaison officers based in different places outside in the communities who are employed by us but who are going to understand the dynamics. One of the other keys is every year we bring in a target of over 1,300 kids. It can exceed that. Free, we facilitate that from the local community, not from Kigali, from the local communities, with local leaders, and make them understand what we're trying to do. They can give us their question and just become basically part owners, let's say, or feel at least part owners of this initiative.